Hey everyone, how are we doing? It is July 17th, 2023. Just after market close today, all major indexes were in the green. And I said this was the likely scenario. Now that we've got a unlimited debt ceiling, basically the debt ceiling is suspended. They could just click trillions of dollars to infinity at the click of a mouse and they could pump this market up to new all-time highs. The only thing that may derail this now, as far as this bull market and the stock market, is going to be some sort of global pandemic situation like we saw in 2020 or something else that brings the entire system down, brings the grid down. The routine with the systems going dark, etc. Like we've warned about here. That would be what many people call a black swan event. Now that's always possible. Other than that, I don't see much bringing this down unless we see some sort of major revamping in how banking is done. Unless we start holding banks accountable, we're going to continue to see this. They can create trillions of dollars again at the click of a mouse. The money's completely detached from gold. It's been like that for decades, but now it's never been this unleashed before in my lifetime. Banks, again, zero reserve requirement. They can loan out endless amounts of money, create now endless amounts of money, borrow endless amounts of money, no debt ceiling, no debt limit. Anyways, most of you know this, but I just want to always remind people because one, there's new people, and two, you really just have to wrap your head around this, right? There's no rationale here between the real people economy and the markets, and they're really, it's always been disconnected. It's always been drastically disconnected, but now we could see just unlimited amounts of upside of this market. I think something's going to derail it though. I just don't know exactly when. So that's the tough part. The timing is tough. I can guarantee you this though: the top 10% that own about 80% of all stocks. Wait, let me make sure I get this right. The top 10% own close to 90% of all stocks. So when the top 10% all start selling, that's when they'll bring the market down, right? They basically control it. It's the billionaires and the trillionaires and the people with their money on the people with their finger on the money printing mouse, so to speak. So these markets could continue to go up, even with all the bad news, even though people are in the most debt they've ever been in. Most people anyway, about 7 out of 10 people. And we've got more news here. And apparently there's a soft landing. That's what a lot of the news is saying. Barron's. Here's an article here. Americans have quietly deleveraged. It may explain the economy's resilience. We've got this out of Yahoo here. Goldman lowers recession. They're talking about Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs lowers recession forecast as Goldilocks ending comes into play. So we've got a soft landing. We've got a Goldilocks ending, that everything's going to be fine, that all of this debt doesn't matter. The banks that failed, those were just a few anomalies. There's no major structural problems within the banking system. That's what they want us all to believe. And I've seen a lot of articles here about soft landing. The economy is resilient. Well, what's a resilient economy? Let me read it to you in a way that someone that posted here put it. And, I try to explain that the economy's manipulated and the resilience is actually just a lot of money printing, borrowing, spending, and an unlimited amount of money. So here we go. Let me just read you this. And this is about the resilience in the economy. This is this article here. The resilience in the economy is due to massive amount of liquidity and the Fed injecting into the system. I think he meant to say that the Fed injected. The Fed injected into the system over the past 15 years. That liquidity has helped inflate asset prices, creating a massive amount of new wealth, in parentheses, and spending power for those inflated asset prices. The problem is, despite causing the prices of these assets to rise, the true underlying value of the assets did not go up, resulting in a big disconnect between price and value, also known as a bubble. At some point, the bubble will pop, and all of that illusionary wealth will evaporate. Then we will see that resilience disappear. And somebody by the name of Daryl that just posted on that particular topic. So that's what it is. He sums it up very well. It's a resilient economy because of all the liquidity, and it basically created a bubble. Things are the most disconnected they've ever been from wages throughout history, worse than the financial crisis, right? So at some point, yes, it will pop, but no one knows the timing. Someone needs to go back in and change the way the money is able to be created. And that could be right around the corner. That could be a long ways away. We're talking about the next phase of this monetary system being completely digital. You want to talk about manipulation and bubbles. Having something completely digital is going to be massive, massive price storm. People are just going to be, at some point, I think people are going to be just reliant on the people that print the money sending out paychecks, kind of like 2020, where people got all these stimulus checks, that on steroids. It's going to be either you work for the money printers or nobody works. I think ultimately, I mean, I'm talking long term down the road here, not tomorrow, not next week, but that's the direction that it's headed in. I mean, these people have control of everything because they've been allowed to completely take over the monetary system. So what about this resilient economy? Well, let's talk about it here. We've got consumer debt here past $17 trillion. This is out of a New York Fed website here. Total household debt reached $17.05 trillion. That was of the first quarter. Let me see if I could find you the second quarter numbers, because we've been finished with the second quarter now for about over 2 weeks. Okay, well, it looks like they haven't put that out yet, but I can guarantee you it's going to be a lot higher. And in fact, the first quarter numbers weren't even put out on that website until May. So it was about 2 months after the end of the quarter when we saw the numbers. So it's likely not going to be until the quarter just ended at the end of June, the second quarter. So likely mid-August before we see the updated numbers. But that's what it is. It is people accumulating debt, people going into debt to buy things. Once that stops, once the system of money lending is changed, then you'll see the markets come down. And unless you see some sort of, again, black swan event freeze up. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into some more news today. I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there because you always need to keep that in the back of your mind when you're thinking about where to invest in the markets or wherever. And you may have noticed I just popped my headset on. I've got some fans running back here. It's actually up in the mid-90s here in my neck of the woods. And I'm not running the air conditioner. I don't have air conditioning in this room that you see me sitting in. Just some fans, so I hope you don't hear too much noise in the background. So I've got my headset on to drown that out. These have a little bit better noise cancellation, so hope that helps. Let's talk about this, the banks. Speaking of big banks getting bigger, we knew this was going to happen when we saw Janet Yellen come out there saying that we may not guarantee deposits with the smaller and the regional banks. They'll have to look at them on a case-by-case basis, that the banks may not be rescued and the depositors may not be covered for FDIC unless the bank is systemically important enough to rescue. So pretty scary, and it was no surprise to see so much outflows from these smaller and regional banks into the too big to fail banks. Therefore, the too big to fail banks have even more leverage, and they can offer better rates on savings, CDs, money markets. Here's an article here, just came out today, Wall Street Journal. Big banks' earnings have some bad news for smaller banks. So they're saying that it's earnings as the reason why they can offer the better rates. Well, that's part of it. I mean, if you're making more money, then you can offer better rates. But why are they making more money? And what really helped? Well, what Janet Yellen said, or what she didn't say, had a big impact on this. Regional lenders, due to report results this week, will be likely hit harder by rising deposit costs. So yeah, the outflows from the smaller banks are starting to impact the smaller banks. So when it comes to a lot of these smaller and regional banks, be careful what banks you invest in, because when they fail or get taken over, either way, you're going to see the stock plummet. And I don't want to see any of my viewers here get hurt. I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm not giving investment advice. But when you're making investment decisions, please think about what's happening right now with the outflows out of the smaller banks. Right? One, people are scared because of they may not be covered by FDIC. But two, now these small banks can't compete with the too big to fails because the too big to fails have so much more leverage now with more profits. And just the guaranteeing of being too big to fail is enough by itself. Now you have this extra all this extra nonsense, on top of that. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go up to Hollywood, Los Angeles, a couple hours up the freeway from me here, the 5 freeway. And we've got a major strike happening right now. They're carrying picketing signs, and let's cut through all the nonsense. It's about money. And why is it about money? Because they're saying that their pay, and this is the actors and also the writers, both, they're saying their pay is not keeping up with the cost of living. LA is a very expensive city, and here we go again. Cost of living, another strike. We've got a lot of strikes going on here recently, and one person out there, one kind of a bigwig, Mr. Diller, a former Paramount Picture CEO, says these conditions will potentially produce an absolute collapse of the entire industry. A lot of people like movies. Some people wouldn't care if the entire industry collapsed. It is a big business, but we'll have to see how this plays out. I could live without watching movies. I think some people rely too much on movies. They rely on entertainment and video games. That's just the way some people choose to live. I have fun playing video games every now and then. I played video games with my nephews a couple weeks ago when we went up to the mountains, and it was all online. They didn't actually have to have a cartridge or anything like that. You guys remember maybe the old was it Sega or Nintendo? We had to blow in the cartridge and get it to work. Weird. So everything was online, no cartridges, nothing like that. So they pay a monthly subscription, and therefore they can choose between hundreds of games. We ended up playing some basketball, and I got beat like 100 to like 55, something like that. Really bad, but it was fun. So I like video games. I like movies. I try to encourage people, not to go out and blow a bunch of money on it, but to each his own. A lot of people will still do that. Will you be upset if the entire Hollywood movie industry collapsed? Please let me know down in the comments. Or will you be happy, or will you just not even care because you don't really watch movies? Either way, I'd like to hear from you down in the comments. We're going to wrap this one up here. Hope everybody is stacking. Hope everybody's well. Big love. Bye for now. Peace.